So professional punters, pundits, tipsters, don't you just love them? No, we don't, because most of them are wrong, ill-informed, and they always miss off the most vital piece of information that you need if you're going to make money when betting. If you want to find out what that is, then watch the rest of this video. If you're interested in learning to trade on Betfair, then visit the BetAngel Academy, where you have detailed, structured Betfair trading courses. Or why not visit our website where you can download a free trial of BetAngel Professional, but also visit the forum where you can get detailed images, examples, and downloadable files. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon if you want notification of new videos as they're released. So when you're looking at betting on a variety of different sports or whatever event you want to, the royal baby name, politics, you can bet on pretty much everything nowadays. And there's one defining characteristic that you should be looking at that will determine whether you have a good bet or not. But, you know, there's plenty of advice available, so why not take some of that? You've got people betting on football, you've got people betting on racing, you've got tipsters coming out of your ears, and you've got pundits giving you advice on which team they think is going to win or not. But there is one critical thing that you need to take account of, and it's something that I use all of the time. I bet, trade, gamble, I do many different types of things, but there's like a core that runs through all of my activity that determines whether I profit over the long term. And I have profited over the long term, so I do know what I'm talking about here. However, when I look at tipsters, whether they're racing tipsters, football tipsters, just any type of tipster, whether they're tipping ACCAs or whatever, I always see this one piece of information missing. You never see it, and this is why I think tipping is completely wrong. It's gone completely way off of where it needs to be. But, you know, we can sort of look at this and say, well, actually, you know, it does serve a particular purpose. However, for whom is my big question here. Because you tune into a football match and they say, right, so who's going to win then? And the fact is that you can never tell definitively who is actually going to win a sports event. It's a graduation of possibilities from never going to win to quite likely to win. And, you know, odd and strange things can happen. But likewise, you know, the nailed on thing doesn't necessarily is going to win. There's never a black and white answer, but everybody wants a black and white answer. That's what satisfies people. You know, and you get it very often. If you see somebody summarising, they say, well, what do you think of the chances of so-and-so? And they say, well, you know, if it's a horse, they say, well, he ran well last week, he's gone up in trip. I think he's going to quite like this distance, hasn't run for 26 days. So they're building this pattern of activity in terms of where they think and why they think this horse could win this particular race. And then they will come to conclusions. So I think it's got a fair chance, is a phrase that you'll often hear wheeled out. Or in a football match, the pundits will summarise a variety of different things. But generally what tends to happen is that the summariser, the anchor of that particular segment of the programme or whatever, will always say, so do you think it's going to win?
So who should you put your money on to win the tournament? Peter Webb, Managing Director of BetAngel, joins us now. Murray's chances then, what do you think?
And that's what people tend to bet on. People tend to go out there and say, I'll have a tenner on this, I'll have a tenner on that, I'll stick a fiver on there, I'll have a monkey on the following event, the following sport, sports person, team, horse, or whatever. But the problem is that's where it all starts to fall down. So people are justifying this huge spread of things that will mean that this is more or less likely, which is great. You know, we do need that information to be able to place a profitable bet into the market. However, they are missing lots of critical bits of information. Because, you know, if we see a team at the top of a football league playing a team at the bottom, are they going to win? Yeah, most likely. But does that represent a good bet? We don't know, because we need to know what the price is, and we also need to know the chance of that actually occurring. And, you know, therefore, there's one characteristic that underlines everything that you do whenever you place a bet, that it should be critically important to you. Now, somebody asked me this question in January when I was in Dublin. I turned up to do a quick half-an-hour slot at an event that was taking place in Dublin, and somebody did ask me one of the most sensible questions that I've been asked for ages, and I gave them the most sensible answer that I could possibly give. let's have a quick listen to the question and the answer that I gave.
Now I'm joined by Peter Webb of Bet Angel at the betting forum here today in Leopardstown. Peter, what's the best advice that you have for a punter?
Generally to get the best price that you can, and I think it doesn't matter what research you've done, however you've done it, if you can't get the best price then you'll never make money. So try and get a good price whenever you have decided upon your pick. So yeah, price was what I was interested in. And the funny thing about most betting markets is that punters, your average Joe gambler, just doesn't ask what the right price is. They just go with their gut and then place a bet based upon whether they think somebody is going to win or not, or some team or something is going to happen. And that's what a lot of the pundits and the tipsters are feeding off us as well. They're basically saying this is going to win because, this can't win because. Now the fact is that in this day and age, you can have a bet at reasonable prices at a lot of different places, but you also do have the advantage of being able to back or lay. So in fact, your judgment transforms itself nowadays. So if somebody says, these are the odds that we're offering you, or that the market is offering you on an exchange, you can decide whether you want to back or lay it. It's perfectly possible for you to look at either of those. So it's like the team at the top of the division are playing the team at the bottom, and you can back them at 105 or very, very heavy odds on in traditional fractional odds. Does that represent value? Well, you have to say, well, how often is that going to occur? Because if this match was played 100 times, how many times would that team go on to win this match? It's quite possible that in the odd match it may not happen for some reason. They get 2 red cards very quickly within the match, which decimates their team. There's a serious injury. There's a fluky goal. The ref decides bizarrely to award 2 penalties that shouldn't have been awarded. So if you look at playing the match 100 times over, some of those things are going to occur, albeit not very often. And out of that comes the price at which it's worth backing. However, if you listen to the football channels and where people are offering up betting tips, they generally won't encapsulate that. I've come to the conclusion after many years of doing this professionally, that people just cannot grasp the concept of probabilities. Our minds are been created over hundreds of thousands of years to think in binary outcomes. It's like, this creature's going to eat me, it isn't, has now transformed into this team is going to win, they're not. It's very difficult to get those grey areas in place, but that's exactly what you need to be profitable. So you're giving odds, you think that this team is going to win, it's not going to be really an issue, but what odds are you being offered? So if you go into a betting exchange and you see odds of 2, then if you do 1 divided by 2, that's basically saying that you're going to, this event is going to occur 50% of the time. So if you think the event is going to occur more than 50% of the time, you can back it, and if it's below 50% of the time that you think it's going to occur, then you can lay it. You can basically profit in either direction. You can make a judgment on every single price that you see on the exchange. Now the way that I do it is, I think that there's a natural variability within the market, and that's in terms of odds and in terms of the outcome of the actual event itself. So what I'm looking for is, I'm not looking inside that natural variability, I'm looking for things that are well outside of that. So if I see something that I know has got a 50% chance of winning, but the market thinks it's only got a 20% chance of winning, there's a 30% margin of error there for me, and I will bet on that, absolutely guaranteed. If I bet on that, I may not win on this occasion, but if I do it 100 times, I'm going to end out ahead. So where tipsters are going wrong, and pundits and all of these other people, is they're not pinning a probability on the chance of something happening. And you're sort of saying, well, I don't understand probability, I'm not interested in that. That's fine, because that's not necessarily your job. If you're receiving advice from a tipster, from a punter, from a professional punter or a pundit, what they should be able to do is tell you if there's value there. And they should be able to nail that value for you as well. So one of the things that I've learned over a very long period of time is you can find value, but the problem that you have is, because of this variability, it's possible that you may go on a string of bad results before it starts to turn up. In fact, if I show you a strategy that I started fairly recently, I'll take a chunk of it and I'll show you how that variability works out, because what you'll notice is, I know I was betting to value because I've modelled this particular sport unbelievably well, so I can nail the chance of something occurring on this, the chance of a win on this sport like down to the nth degree, down to 400 decimal places. Slight exaggeration there. But basically, I know that there's a certain amount of sort of wiggle room that I have to have within that particular model. So it could be that I perform this action, but because of the chance that I'm betting against, has a certain amount of variability in it and may go against me in the short term. So what you actually see on this graph is it starts off, I can't remember if it was positive or negative immediately, but basically it goes through a long negative run, and then suddenly all of those results start to come in and it swings positive. Now, the longer I run this model, the more I bet to this particular model, the more money I'll make over the longer term, but I have to accept that it's going to have ups and down swings all over the place. So this is why when tipsters tip a horse, or a pundit says something about a football match, or anybody writes any article about anything, you should nominate a price at which you're willing to back or lay at. You should say, this is the chance that it has of winning this particular race, this particular event, and therefore I will not back it below this amount, or I will back it above this amount, because you're accounting for that variability. If you take your margins too tight, then you could go bust, because the market will swing up and down against you, but over the long term it basically ends up positive. But if you have very small margins and it swings against you, you could blow your bank completely. So when a tipster tips something, or a pundit in a football match says that they think that they're going to win, what they should be saying, it's never going to happen, I can tell you that, but what they should be saying is, I like Manchester United tonight, and I think they've got a 75% chance of winning, and therefore I'm willing to back them above this price. Or if we see a horse that comes out, it's like, I like this horse, it likes the ground, the going's going to suit it today, it's stepping up in trip, and it should have improved from its last outing. Then what should happen is they shouldn't say, and therefore stick a tenner on it. They should say, and therefore I think it's got an 80% chance of winning this match, this race, but the market's pricing it only at a 50% chance, and therefore I think this represents a great bet. But of course that's not going to happen. It's not immediate enough, it's not thrilling enough, it's not exciting enough. People won't do that. If I went on to, I could probably go on to a particular channel of some sort and say to them, this would be the chance of this occurring. It does not make for great television. However, if you go on and say, oh yeah, I really fancy this one, it's the price is crashing in, it's stepping up in trip, and therefore, I'm going to have my money on this horse. That's exciting and entertaining, and that's what drives people to place a bet. Within the industry, it's called bet stimulus. That's what people are trying to do on the sell side of the industry, from a bookmaker, a sportsbook, or whatever. They're trying to stimulate you to place a bet. But what they won't do is actually give you the chance of this thing occurring, because if they did, you'd realise that you were going to lose money over the long term anyhow. So yeah, I think that, what I would love to see is I'd love to see betting tipsters and punters and all of the people within the industry actually nail their predictions with a percentage probability. However, I don't think that that is ever going to happen, simply because a lot of people are going on gut feel. They don't have a model in place, and therefore they don't know where the value is. Because yes, it may win, but it may have won at a bad price. Or yes, it has, it could win, but it could win at a good price. And there's a big difference between the two, because I focus on price. Price. That's what I'm most interested in. It's no good winning frequently if I'm not getting value out of that, because over the long term my P&L is going to head off in the wrong direction. But if I can get a decent price on something, then I definitely will win money over the longer term. So the next time you place a bet, that's what you focus on. Focus on the value, focus on the price. If you don't think the price is big enough, and whatever you're doing suggests that that is the case, then you simply don't place a bet. You're under no obligation to place a bet and to try and make money. You can just wait for the right price to come along, and when you see it, you just jump on it and take full advantage of it. That's what I do. It's made me a lot of money over a long period of time, and you can do the same. So the only way to profit in the long term is to know what chance something has of happening, and then to find odds that represent value. Any professional punter, tipster or pundit should be able to give you that particular price. If they don't, then they don't know what the value will be, and their tip is worthless.